Growing up was tough. I didn't have all of the things that maybe a normal kid has growing up nowadays. I lived in a tent for 4 years with my family. It was a hard time in our life. I remember thinking about my friends who would be at home in their bedrooms, in their beds, while I'm sharing a tent with my brother, my 2 sisters, and my mom and dad. It wasn't the normal situation. It wasn't the normal scenario. It was hard. I remember living in a small town and hearing people talk about us and hearing people talk about my family and, often making jokes about us, the family that lives down the hill in the tent, the poor family. And I remember hearing people talk about that. I remember one time specifically that just stuck in my mind, a time when I was on the Little League baseball team and hearing my friends, one of my friends' parents making a joke about the van that my mom had just gotten from my dad, and that they said, "Oh, look at that, isn't that nice? That guy finally bought his wife a home." And I remember how much that hurt, how bad that hurt. I remember summer nights when it would just rain so hard that it would flood us out, and we'd wake up at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, everything that we have just soaked, and rushing into town trying to find a place to stay so we could be dry. I remember wintertime, rolling over in the middle of the night, feeling ice rub across my cheek from where the condensation inside the tent had frozen overnight, and that feeling just insecurity and no stability there, and just that fear as a young boy. My dad was gone a lot. He loved us. He loved my mom, but he was gone a lot working. I wouldn't see him for days sometimes, trying to earn enough money to put his family and his wife and his kids into a home. And finally 4 years went by, and my dad was able to do that for us. Finally we got ourselves in a home where before we couldn't take showers. All of our clothes were stored in trash bags, sleeping in a tent through the winters and through the summertime, and finally we were in a home. I remember getting a room to share with my brother and not even knowing how to handle all this extra space, and I remember trying to sneak into bed with my sister or my parents, being 13 years old, not knowing how to even sleep in my own bed. It was a tough time. It was a hard time, but looking back on that experience, I remember specifically a night where my dad had run electricity out into the tent we were living in, and my mom had a small TV there, and she was watching a Christian television program, and the person on the program was talking about how God loves his children and how much He cares about us, and it reminded me of my mom teaching us. We weren't in public school. My mom homeschooled us back on that little piece of property that we had where we were living, and she did her best, and I remember her teaching us the Bible, and I remember her telling us how much God loved us, and that no matter what the circumstance is, no matter where we find ourselves at as a family in this hard place, that God has a plan, that God has a hope, and that He has a future for us. And I remember that night feeling for the first time ever, 11 years old, just the love of God fill me up like it never had before. And I asked my mom, I said, "Mom, I want to know that Jesus. I want to know that person." And she prayed with me, and it was just an amazing night of experiencing God, and really as a young boy with no home, all of a sudden feeling like I wasn't alone and that He was there with me. I look back on that whole experience and I think about the power that comes with love. My family, my brother, my sisters, my mom, my dad, we loved each other so much. We loved each other so much, and through that love and expressing that love for one another, we were able to gain strength to keep going, that we weren't going to find ourselves hopeless because we had each other. But even more than that, the love of God that carried me and my family through that time in our lives of practically being homeless, not having a home, and how much He cared about us and loved us, and that He wasn't going to let us be alone going through this situation. Since then, we've grown up, and all my family, we all have our own homes now, and God has given us a future. God has given me a future, and I'm just excited about what He's doing, and I'm excited that I'm able to show love to people who maybe find themselves in the same situation, and to love them through it, and to help them through it, and to even be the hands of God to help these people who are in need, and just to share the love with people.